Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me. The Cabinet Office is the heart of the government of Bermuda. It sets the vision and policy direction for all of government. The theme of this year's throne speech is serving the people, and it places great emphasis on improving service delivery in key areas throughout government. Over the last 2 weeks, you have heard from my ministerial colleagues who have shared with you the steps they will take this legislative session to introduce effective and efficient policies that will help make the lives of our people better. On behalf of the Cabinet Office, I'm pleased to highlight the following areas as outlined in the throne speech. As you will note, last week it was announced that the Department of Planning will now fall under the Cabinet Office. I can advise that the Department of Planning is keen to modernize its processes to ensure efficiencies. To that end, the department has entered a partnership with the Green Overseas Organization under the auspices of the European Union to update and modernize the building codes. This program aims to accelerate the energy transition and increase the climate resilience of overseas countries and territories. One of the benefits will be to introduce an energy rating system for buildings, which will maximize the savings that persons, whether owners or tenants, can earn from the implementation of energy-efficient methods. The General Development Order, which identifies forms of development that do not require full planning permission, is to be revised to expand the scope of work that would only require a building permit. Some examples would include that there would no longer need to, a person would no longer need to seek planning permission to change the use of a building located within the city of Hamilton, and likewise for the installation of larger scale solar panels across the island. Additionally, to empower those preferring to submit applications without professional assistance, Planning 101 workshops will be organized. To provide an additional resource, artificial intelligence is being proposed as another method of obtaining quick planning advice and answers to frequently asked questions. The department will also be working with the Attorney General's chambers to prepare the necessary regulations to implement the Competent Persons Scheme, a scheme to enable professionals from a range of disciplines within the construction industry to perform various works, negating the need for the standard inspection process. This is an initiative that has been in the works to simplify and remove bureaucracy for registered professionals in their respective trades. The Department of Planning is in the initial stages of reviewing the Bermuda Plan 2018. Of note, there will be more attention paid to those areas of the island that will be most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. It is recognized that we need to ensure planning policy encompasses the resilience required for development going forward. In addition, the department is formulating a community planning initiative to enable the public the opportunity to give greater input into the development needs of the future. This will be similar to the draft St. David's Community Plan of 2022, created by the Department of Planning, Bermuda Land Development Corporation, and various community stakeholders. And lastly, to support and modernize processes and enhance the customer experience, planning is looking to improve the payments processes by developing an improved system for customers to submit fees without having to visit multiple offices. Turning to the Department of Information and Digital Technology, let me state unequivocally that we are committed to building a more resilient information technology platform. The last few months have been busy ones for IDT. In the wake of the September 20th cyber attack, we continue our vigilance in protecting and fortifying our IT networks and systems. As highlighted in this year's throne speech, we are creating a more robust information technology security infrastructure to maximize threat detection, minimize risk, and improve overall service efficiencies. Stricter training plans and policies will be implemented to ensure that government personnel enhance their awareness of threats. I can confirm that several new tools, processes, and services have already been introduced, and these have greatly increased our overall security position. We recognize that it is critical to rebuild the trust and confidence of the community and our stakeholders in the wake of this event. During this legislative session, it is anticipated that the Ministry of National Security will introduce a cybersecurity bill. The IDT department will work collaboratively with them to ensure that there is a framework and guidance policies to allow for good governance in accordance with international standards. Lastly, we are aware that public interest remains regarding this unprecedented event. What I can advise is that these continue to be sensitive times. As it relates to our services, while some areas still face some service disruptions, much of the government's IT systems are operational. And our security team continues to work with several departments to strengthen the current environment. Finally, turning to the Registry General, intellectual property and aligning with international treaties and standards will be a priority this legislative session. With the new trademark legislation recently passed in October, we are actively working on the patent legislation and intend to table the new act in this legislative year. The current legislation, which dates to 1930, does not provide the relevant criteria for the current industry standards and fees relating to patents. Hence, we will seek to bring relevant amendments to ensure that they reflect a modern industry that is in line with the 21st century. In closing, this year's throne speech theme is a reminder to all of us in government, whether a minister or a public officer, that serving the people is the basic underlying focus of what we do. We serve you, the people. Our government will continue to work on policy and legislative changes to enhance the lives of everyone who call Bermuda home, as we strive to build a better island for us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your presentation regarding the Cabinet Office throne speech initiatives. We're going to open it up for questions from our media partners, and we're going to start with Jasmine Patterson, who's with us from the Bermuda Broadcasting Company. Jasmine, no, you don't have to stand. Here you go.
That's kind. Thank you. Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for your remarks. Just to start, you're now overseeing the Department of Planning. And I guess as we last heard, the special development order was due to be reviewed by West End Properties, the developers of the Fairmont Southampton. Do we have an update on where we're at with that process?
Well, as you know, the whole appeals process has several steps, and where that application is now is in the drafting stage, and so we'll work through that process, and that's where it is right now at the drafting stage.
Do you have a rough estimate of how long the process can normally take?
Well, we don't have an estimate of time at this stage, but we can advise that it is at the drafting stage.
Okay. So government inefficiency, it's long been touted as a roadblock to streamlining service delivery. You mentioned some streamlining within the department, but more broadly, could you break down for us what, in your view, is driving these inefficiencies?
Well, there's a number of things. I would say we aren't always working with the most up-to-date equipment. In some instances, as you hear in another section, we're working with antiquated laws. So we're updating laws in those areas so that we are operating in a modern environment with modern laws and are competitive. But I would say it's primarily, in some instances, equipment, in some instances, staff. We don't have certain departments fully staffed. So that combination of things, I would say, is contributing to what we would label as inefficiencies.
Sure. Do you have a sort of a vision, a pathway on what measures you're hoping to achieve, within the next parliamentary session?
Well, as you would know, process, there are measures that are put in place to where we can improve the performance measures by implementing modern technology, and also where we can, where there's a case of being understaffed, to bring their staff on board.
In terms of efficiencies, technical innovation, remote working, did you take any positives from the pandemic that you've been able to retain from that period?
I think the big thing is that our public officers are extremely hardworking. When you look at the recent cyber attack, for example, they have worked nonstop to not only to get us back online, but also to provide and to innovate in circumstances so that we can still provide some of the government services. And so I would say that is the biggest takeaway that I can pass on, that our public officers are hardworking and dedicated.
Okay. You also have responsibility for the Bermuda Post Office. My Bermuda Post, regarding that matter, has the ministry taken any action on the Supreme Court's findings that it acted unlawfully by entering into a partnership with a US-based company?
We are currently awaiting advice from our attorney on that, so that's where that matter is.
Any time frame?
I couldn't give you a time frame.
Okay, thanks. Reg, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, RegTech. It was mentioned in the throne speech. Could you break down what this is and how do you see its implementation benefiting Bermuda's international business sector?
That is more of a Ministry of Finance measure, so it would be best answered by the substantive Minister in Finance.
Okay, thank you. And just lastly, you served as Minister of Tourism for roughly 6 months. It's probably one of the shortest terms we might have seen in recent times. Were you disappointed at all to have that tourism portfolio taken off your hands?
I served as Minister of Tourism for about 20 months. But again, we serve at the Premier's grace. I was happy to serve our people in that capacity. The Premier sees fit for me to serve in a different capacity. I still have cabinet responsibilities, and I'm happy to continue my service on behalf of our people.
Thank you, Minister.
Sarah Legan from the Careful Royal Gazette.
Hi, good evening. Another question on the SDO. When he was responsible for the Department of Planning, the Minister of Home Affairs, he went against the recommendations of the Planning Department and the Development Applications Board when he confirmed approval of the SDO, Fairmont Southampton. Given that you're now in that position, would you have done the same?
I would have taken the advice of the technical people in conjunction with other material that would have been provided in the whole process. And you can recall it was a lengthy process, and I would have used that information to come to my conclusion.
So would you have, based on the information that's out there now, would you have taken that decision?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you tell me when the SDO is to be gazetted?
It has to be completely drafted, and that's in process now.
Yeah.
Once it is completed and finalized, then it will be gazetted.
Okay. And the DAB had raised concerns over SDO processes and procedures, including the appeals procedure. Do you believe that the procedures are fit for purpose?
I believe, but as we have mentioned, we are looking at ways to modernize and improve efficiencies. So we will look at the relevant laws as well to see if there are ways we can improve them and make them more efficient.
Would you say it's fit for purpose currently?
I would say that it serves its purpose, but whether or not it can be improved, probably.
Okay. Just moving on to the, IDT part of your discussion. Can you say yet which government services are not up and running?
Well, we have been advised, and we do have a meeting every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday now. It used to be every morning, 7 days a week, but now it's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We are advised that there are some government departments that may have some services that are not back up yet, but in general, as a whole, government is back up and running. And those areas that do, they're isolated, and they are being given the attention right now to get them back up and running.
Can you say specifically which ones they are that are not quite there yet?
Again, they're isolated, and I'd rather leave it at that.
Okay. And has it been established if it was ransomware?
Again, there's an ongoing investigation, and you've heard numerous times from the Premier, and you've heard, I believe, recently from my ministerial colleague in National Security, that there's an ongoing investigation. So we have committed to a joint select committee in both houses. So that will give the opportunity for investigation and all questions to be asked and answered.
Including whether government paid a ransom?
All questions.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much for your questions. Well, thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. That concludes today's press briefing, and we wish you all a very good weekend.